Welcome to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, the ultimate resource for business leaders looking to skyrocket your company's growth. I'm your host, Kerry Curran, and this episode is Unveil the Hidden Power of B2B Branding, Decoding Your Brand's DNA for Explosive Business Growth. With special guest Joe Lovett, Fractional CMO and founder of Proving Ground. In this episode, we'll discuss why B2B companies often overlook the importance of branding, the critical steps to build a purposeful brand strategy, and how aligning your brand with business goals can shorten the sales cycle and drive revenue. We'll also delve into Joe's robust and defined framework for creating a brand that stands out and resonates with your audience and ultimately leads to sustained growth. If you're ready to align your marketing expertise with your business growth goals, this episode is a must listen. Let's go. And welcome, Joe. Joe, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and share a bit about your consultancy.
Yeah, thank you, Kerry. Appreciate you having me on today. My name is Joe Lovett, and I am a fractional CMO for a company called Proving Ground. Just a little bit about me. Kerry and I actually worked together many years ago in the search engine marketing space. We were saying we were talking on the prep for this podcast that really still think that helps shape my perspective, because in search, you really have to think through, who is the target audience? What do they care about? What are they looking for? Where are they in the journey? All these constant things that you have to think about. But from there, I went to a couple different agencies, bounced around a couple different agencies. Last place I was the head of intelligence and head of strategy at a local agency here in Boston. And then struck out on my own and been doing this for about 4 years. I typically work with small to medium startup in the technology space mostly.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, as Joe said, we worked together a long time ago, back when the brand differentiator was our people, our process, and our technology. So hopefully if you get anything from the conversation today, it will be to be a little bit more specific in your brand strategy and messaging.
Yeah. Or the first. You forgot about the first. The original, the first. The original, all those great differentiators.
Yeah. And we were. It was a good time.
That's right.
But yeah, so Joe, I know you've worked with a number of brands and brand challenges over the years. So kind of, especially when you're talking to your newer clients or prospects, what do brands ask you? What are they asking you for?
Yeah, I think on the B2C side, I typically work with B2B. And on the B2C side, I think having a brand is a pretty well-known thing. Mm-hmm. On the B2B side, it's a little bit, I don't know if they're about getting their product in the hands, showing the impact on the business, things like that. They don't really recognize that a brand is necessarily needed. I think that's probably something that they look at not being a priority. So I probably have to do a little bit of the heavier lifting when it comes to selling and saying, hey, you actually need a brand. There was actually a study a number of years ago that people actually felt a tighter connection with a B2B brand than they do a B2C brand. So for instance, companies like Cisco or IBM or things like that, their customers actually had a tighter connection with that brand than they do, say, the top consumer brands, Tesla or Apple or you name it. And part of it is if you make the wrong decision, with a phone or with a car, it's going to suck, but it doesn't necessarily impact your career or your livelihood. Whereas you really are placing a lot of trust into, into a software, for example, that you choose or whatever B2B vendor that you choose for your organization. So it does make sense that there's actually a stronger connection there with brands.
And what happens when they think a brand is just their colors and logo, or how do you explain to them it's a little bit more than that?
Yeah, and that's another great point. It's we got a logo. It looks kind of cool. It sort of represents us, even though we don't have much rationality for it. We really haven't done our due diligence if it looks like any other marks out there. And all right, let's go with it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really mean a whole lot, and it doesn't really do a whole lot in terms of marketing. So I do I do take my clients through, a pretty purposeful branding exercise to get them to, not just the the tone and style like of that
Hmm.
logo, but like what it actually means and what they as a company stand for and who they serve.
Right. And so do you have a challenge in convincing them to make the investment and that this is a strategy?
Um, I believe so. A lot of times, and I'm sure you can identify with this, Carrie. A lot of times they come in and they say, "We need a better website, or we
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
a newsletter, or we need SEO friendly website, or whatever that is."
Hmm.
They tend to be very tactical, and I
Yeah.
try to approach things. I think it's just kind of my nature being in strategy. I try to approach things from a very purposeful direction. Like,
Hmm.
okay, who are we serving? What do you do?
Right.
How are you different? Tell us about those types of things so that and once you spend time doing that, then it makes all of those other things easier. Then we can identify and say, okay, a newsletter is going to be a great place to engage with them. And it just makes, once you have that brand and that direction, what you're out there saying to the market,
Hmm.
everything becomes a lot more purposeful and effective and efficient.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what I'm seeing too is that especially in B2B, they're kind of doubling they need revenue. They need sales quickly.
Yeah.
They need new customers. And so their their reactive approach is to, lean into sales, double down on their, cold calling, cold email, looking at the bottom of the funnel versus kind of building up that strategy, that brand strategy for revenue. And it's so critical. What are you seeing in that kind of those conversations about tying it all to revenue?
Yeah, it is absolutely a challenge because you obviously got to have revenue to support some of your more sort of like to haves, and revenue
Hmm.
solves
Hmm.
a bunch of challenges. What I would just say to that is if we spend a little bit of time doing these types of background, of fundamental, of blueprint type activities,
Yeah.
that you're going to get to your revenue better, right? You're going to shorten your sales cycles. You're going to
Yeah.
reach the right audience. You're not going to have a lot of noise. If you're out there, if ad buying is something you want to do, you'll be able to target people more efficiently and drive that revenue. So, and just what messages are you out there saying that ultimately tie back to the problem that you solve and the value that you give? So it's it's part and parcel, I believe, like that
Hmm.
the strong brand and how you generate revenue are
Yeah.
kind of the same, the same coin, the different sides of the same coin, whatever that quote is.
Right. No, and that's the thing too. Like you're saying, like the more defined your brand is, your
Right.
ICP coming out of the gate, I love what you said about you're shortening the sales cycle. You're just making everything so much more effective, and getting to that revenue hopefully more quickly.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Absolutely.
but yeah, you have a pretty robust and defined framework that I know your clients are benefiting from. Like, can you walk us through that? Because I found it very interesting.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So envision just a bullseye target, right?
Hmm.
And in the center there is brand target, right? The next center out is going to be your brand purpose, your mission, why you do what you do. The next step out is going to be the brand positioning, like where do you live against other brands? What is your position in the marketplace? Then we go to the brand archetype, like what are you, what is sort of the tonality of your brand
Hmm.
just at a high level. And then we go into the brand style, and the style is really the creative, the design work, in the mark, and what makes it uniquely you, and conveys all of those things that I just went through. So
Mm-hmm.
so what I just want to take you through was starting out like with that brand target in the center,
Mm-hmm.
um, and take you through the brand archetype discussion, if that works.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. So I I love the Abraham Lincoln quote that if I had 8 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend 6 of them sharpening my axe. And it's the same thing with defining your target audience. So I would encourage brands to go and spend a bunch of time really understanding their audience, right? Like if they
Mm-hmm.
have current customers, talk to your current customers. Why did they choose you? What were they using before? What do they love about it? What are their frustrations? Like really understand the category. Also talk to some of your prospects that you might have lost. Like
Right.
reconnect with them and say, hey, something we're really working on changing out like our brand, and we want to better understand our customers and what you care about. Why did we lose? Like what could we have done better? Why did you choose who you chose? And just really kind of conducting these qualitative interviews, I think gives
Mm-hmm.
you a tremendous amount of insight to how your audience thinks. There's multiple decision makers in a B2B environment. So,
Mm-hmm.
I encourage you to talk to the tech folks, talk to the executive decision maker, talk to the people that spearhead the search, like figure out who they are and talk to
Mm-hmm.
all of them, and really understand them. So, because then once you really understand that, then all of a sudden those campaigns, and I mean, after we go through all these steps, the campaigns and what you do in the messages you send are going to be that much more effective because you know what those pain points are. You know where you stand kind of in there. Um,
Yeah, and just asking again, like you're saying, would the customer care about this? Like, is this
right.
important to them? And making sure you're aligning. No, it's
Yeah,
so
great point. Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, and once you create this and you create a beautiful persona that has an image with what your customer kind of looks like, and maybe a big
Mm-hmm.
quote, and then you're right, you can always go back and say, even from a product development standpoint, okay, we're adding this feature. Do they care about this? Like maybe
Yeah.
they don't. Maybe they care about something else. So you can use it
Mm-hmm.
for other aspects of your business besides just marketing.
Yeah. No, I love this. And it definitely the bullseye imagery just reinforces that it is a build and that there's
Yes.
that core foundation.
Yep.
Yeah. And so walk us through the
Yeah.
next circle.
And then I'll just kind of finalize this and just
Yeah.
leave you
Sorry.
with like, I always like to see if you can fill in the blanks. Like I need, so
Mm-hmm.
what is their goal? What's
Oh,
their
right.
objective? So that like
Yeah.
sometimes it's not evident. Like I need a ERP SaaS, or I need, to upgrade this. Like you can be a little more clear, but if you
Right.
put so that, you are diving a little bit deeper on
Yeah.
what actually they're looking for and why they're looking for it.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I love that you were talking about that in the Mad Libs
yeah. Yes.
perspective. So
Yep.
give us some examples so we can visualize that a bit.
Yeah. So so I would say like, I need in the clearer you can be. So,
Yeah.
I need a SaaS ERP that replaces SaaS ERP that replaces, our sort of one that we started when we were a startup, that is able to connect our manufacturing to something like that. So,
Mhm.
and then, so that we can be more efficient and effective in how
Mhm.
we allocate, parts and resources
And
and
solving the
those things.
problems.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
Um,
love that. Yeah.
and then something maybe like if only, and what is the challenge that they're currently experiencing? Maybe, as we said in this example, this was a product that they purchased when they were, a real startup, and maybe didn't have all the bells and whistles. So like, what is kind of their current challenge that they're existing with? Um,
Mhm.
or sorry, if only is more like if it only had this, if it only was able to connect this, if only it was a cloud based and we didn't have to hire more IT folks to support it, but and then what is kind of the big challenge that they're experiencing. So if you just kind of type in for the portrait, and do all your research and say, if only, so that, or sorry, I need, so that, if only, but once you get there, you've got a pretty good start on a robust framework for your, for your customer portrait or profile.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. So then the next step out in our imaginary bullseye here is brand purpose. And the framework I like to use is, if you can imagine a quadrant. I'm asking everyone to imagine a lot of things here, but keep them all in your head. So in the top left is your fuel. Like what is that thing that's happening out in the marketplace today? It's that cultural fuel. It's the trends that are happening. It's like, why is your audience doing, or what are the impact that they're seeing out there, or what trends are they seeing? For example, today, world, it's probably like AI and machine learning, right? Like anybody that isn't sort of looking for solutions that connect AI to them, is probably, so that's just one example. And then, so your top right quadrant is what behaviors are your audience exhibiting in the context of your business because of that fuel, so because of that. So, in an Apple example, the fuel would be like, we constantly become more similar and it's harder and harder to differentiate ourselves. The behavior is that we do things, we create, we dress differently, we try to, we try to differentiate ourselves, even though society and the norms want to kind of continue to make us sort of this monolithic culture, right? So those are like two examples there. So then bottom left, now you start getting into your brand. So because of the fuel and the behavior, because of the fuel, like what is your conviction, right? So, we believe, what are we passionate about? So in context, and a lot of times I love working with founders because they actually started a company because, there was something missing in the world, or it didn't have a feature pack that they wanted to have. So they got frustrated and started their own thing. And I love those kind of stories. So like, what is that conviction? And then bottom right is the purpose. So the conviction is what the brand believes, and the purpose is like why we exist. We exist too, which is really kind of solving for that behavior fuel and that conviction, and which ultimately becomes the purpose. So
I was drawing it all out as you're going through it. That's definitely.
Oh, you are good. Hopefully everyone at home is doing that as well.
Yeah.
So just kind of taking our Apple example. So conviction would be, we believe in helping people establish be unique, and then their purpose is, we believe in helping people be creators and express their creativity or something like that. Yeah. It's probably not exactly that, but you can kind of see like where that's going from a brand standpoint. So now you've actually established your purpose.
Yeah. And as part of that work, just reiterating or defining the unique value prop, or does that kind of come out there to make sure that it isn't just our people, process, and technology?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great point. I think sometimes it's good to step back and sort of say, what do we believe in? Like, why do we exist? Because yes, we have a value prop, but sometimes the value prop is in terms of like, we help you save 10% of money on this and that, which can be okay, right? That could be a valid differentiator, but it's good to sort of like explore back and like kind of say, okay, like let's go external, right? What is those external fuel? What's the external behavior that our target is experiencing? Now let's tie that to our differentiation and what we believe in and why we exist. And then you can go back and rectify it and say, okay, now let's go back and look at our value proposition. Are these things connected? Are they different? Does it still feel strong? Does it feel like something we want to keep, we want to refine? But it's just another it's just another way to look at it and kind of go really down deep into those like core building blocks of why the company exists in the first place.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful.
Yeah.
And then, so where do you, so you work with your teams, your clients to kind of build this out. And then how do you take them to the next step?
So then I use that Mad Lib positioning template that you were talking about. So this is just more Mad Libs, but it's, so I usually use a template that's like to, the audience, so I was using Volvo as an example the other day, Kerry. So, to the audience, to safety-minded, safety-minded families, or that's probably not necessarily the buyer. So the decision maker, the transportation decision maker of safety-minded families or safety-minded parents, is the, and what is the category? So it is the, luxury vehicle, luxury car that, what is the key benefit? So the luxury vehicle that is the highest rated, safest car that money can buy, because of our advanced technologies in, I'm making this up, I don't own a Volvo, crumple zones, airbags, whatever new cool feature that they just came out with that's, super safe and super, 10-point belted seatbelts, for the back seat or something. And then I always like to add like, unlike, and then you can put kind of your core, your key competitors there, and what are they out there saying? So, what I haven't talked about is like actually looking at what your competitors are out there saying, which is a good step into this process. But at least here you're kind of saying, okay, this is our position template, and it's unlike, in this case, maybe BMW, which is, engineered to be more of a driving machine, and freedom on the road. So now you're starting to think, okay, is this different? Does this resonate? We've done our research with the audience. We sort of know why we exist, right? We exist, because we believe that, people deserve safer cars, or, life is violent out there. You should be safe, or whatever that is. And then we see that it's different from some of the other competitors out there.
Yeah. No, this is great. And it's a very helpful framework, and lots of shapes, but lots of actionable steps to take. So,
lots
and hopefully
of quadrants, bullseyes, Mad Libs,
Yeah. It's great. So as long as you're not listening to this in your car, it's good to kind of draw it out as you're working on it.
Absolutely.
No, Joe, this is great. And it's definitely, and as you were saying at the beginning, an important framework to invest in at the beginning to make everything more efficient and really work better together to drive that business growth. So,
absolutely.
So this is great. Thank you so much. And hopefully we can have you on again soon.
I would love that. That would be amazing. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. And let's definitely connect soon.
Thanks. I'm Kerry Curran, and this is Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for our next episode, Colors, Logos, and Loyalty, the essentials of effective branding for business growth. And be sure to subscribe to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, for more ways to skyrocket your company's growth.